listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Welcome into the GM Shuffle. I am Geoff Schwartz. That is Marty, Hurney. And as usual, GM Shuffle is presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. We're going to go through all the action from yesterday. We're going to give you our preview from Monday Night Football. So stay tuned for all of that. But Marty, I want to start here after week 5 of the National Football League. Is anyone good? I don't know, Marty. I don't know if anyone's good in the National Football League. We do this every year about this time where we look around the NFL. And after yesterday, the Eagles lost, the Bills lost, no undefeated teams anymore. We have a giant middle pack. We don't really know, I think, who the best team in the NFC is, or the AFC is, or who's winning the Super Bowl, or who'd you bet on to win the Super Bowl. All those things, Marty, after 5 weeks. I don't know who the good teams are. I think we know, but then we think we know when the Bills lose or the Eagles lose, and then we have to make up our minds about something else, about who the best team. Do you feel the same thing as me, as sort of not really having a firm grasp on who the best teams are in the NFL?
Yes, but that's the way the NFL wants it. I mean, that's the old word parity that you don't hear anymore, but that's how this system is set for everybody to have a chance, everybody to be competitive, and it invests your fans of teams all through the season because you're always in it. So, yeah, I think that, and of course, yesterday, no undefeated teams after 5 weeks, which is just crazy. One team with 0 wins, which is the Jets, which, I feel so sorry for their fan base right now. They're looking for some ray of hope. But you're right, Geoff. I mean, there's a lot of, there's the have-nots, and there's a big group in the middle.
There is a big group in the middle. Yesterday was, as usual, a wild NFL day, Marty. The Titans overcame an 18-point deficit to beat the Cardinals, get their first win, 22-21. The Panthers overcame a 17-point deficit to beat the Dolphins, 27-24. The Broncos overcame a 14-point deficit to beat the Eagles, 21-17. The Saints, 11 points to beat the Giants, 26-14. The Commanders were down 10-0 and scored 27 points in a row to beat the Chargers 27-10 as Daniels was working back in. But to me, Marty, coming off this weekend, look, we can focus on the Eagles and Bills as sort of losers, right? And they did lose the game, but New England Patriots, Marty, I've been sort of off them. I think we've talked about the issues that we've seen, and the penalties were there last night again. Disappointed was there last night again. But we've focused, me and you, a lot on these 2024 quarterbacks. It does feel like Drake May last night was sort of the official, like, we're on the right track with him and Vrabel, Josh McDaniels. What'd you make of Drake May last night against Buffalo?
There's no question, Geoff. And, the word fit just keeps popping up there with Drake May and Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel is a defensive head coach that wants a quarterback like Drake May, a big, strong, athletic quarterback who can run the ball, who can make throws. Drake May was exceptional last night and created big plays when it seemed like nothing was there. And I think that with Josh McDaniels as his offensive coordinator, he is just going to keep getting better and better. Listen, there was a long time, Geoff, where a lot of people thought Drake May might be the number 1 pick in that class. Obviously, Caleb Williams was extremely strong, but Drake May was a guy that everybody thought was going to come in and be a star in this league, and I think he's going to be. I think the fit with him and Vrabel and Josh McDaniels is the perfect fit for him. He's got size, he's got speed, he's got athleticism, he can throw the ball. People in North Carolina gushed that about him for years there, the last 2 years there. And I just think that the Patriots had so far to come building their team, Geoff, but they have really rebuilt very quickly and I think are going to be very competitive in years to come.
And the Patriots still have work to do with the offensive line. They still have work to do with wide receivers. Stephon Diggs, great to see him sort of show himself last night. And look, Drake May was 22 of 30 for 273, and no touchdowns, no interceptions. But you mentioned the thing that I think that was most important was the creation, right, of plays out of pocket. So look, number one thing you have to be in the NFL to be good at a quarterback is in the pocket play, right, on time, on rhythm. And those extra plays make you special, correct? Like those are the plays. If you live on those, you're not going to be any good. But if you can add them to already being in rhythm on offense, that makes you that much better. You scouted Drake May coming out. What have you seen elevate in his game the first 5 weeks that you maybe were hoping to see when you scouted him?
Playmaking ability. In college, he had all the traits, Geoff, but I just wanted to see him make more plays in every game. He came out last night, and really, I mean, he put his team on his back there in the second half, and particularly in the fourth quarter, and made plays when nothing was there. And I think that's what he's always had, all the ability in the world, and you felt like he was going to improve if he got to the right place. And I just can't stress it enough. He is a perfect fit for Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels.
The other undefeated team that went down yesterday was the Philadelphia Eagles. So I think it sort of feel like they were itching for a loss, and they got this yesterday. They're up 17, was it 17-3, I believe. The Broncos scored early, and the Broncos scored late and won 21-17. Eagles did throw for 280 yards, which we had discussed as, they wanted to get the ball down the field a little bit more. A.J. Brown complained about receptions, ended up with 5. Devontae Smith ended up with 8. Barkley did add a big reception for 47 yards, so maybe the passing numbers, 23 of 38, not great for Hurts. Barkley right now, only 30 yards on the ground for the season, only 267 yards so far this season, projected for 908 after that 2,000-yard season last year. And look, the Broncos did a great job coming back. I'm quite honestly shocked the Eagles blew that game, Marty, with the way they're built. But I think it's a discussion to be had about the way they're built to do certain things, Marty. They're not as good anymore at that, whether that's attrition on the offensive line. They're just not as good up front. They're pretty injured. Dickerson went out in this game. I think Lane Johnson played, but hasn't been like himself this season. He's been a little beat up. And I think teams are keen on the fact that if you take away Barkley and make Hurts actually beat you week in and week out, that's a spot you want to be in. So credit the Broncos for winning this game. A game I didn't think they would win. But I'm worried about the Eagles, Marty. What do you see from them?
Well, my question would be, how many carries did Barkley have yesterday, Geoff? He had what?
6. That's it. Yeah.
6 carries, and you're
11 total carries for the game and 38 passes.
Yeah, I mean, I just and you've got to lead, and I think that the key, what made the Eagles so good last year, the addition of Barkley and in that balanced attack, and I think that right now, I mean, I was amazed at that. They have to get Barkley more involved in the run game, and they have to run the ball better, and I think they will. I really do. But I think Dickerson is a big injury. They're different when he's out, I think, on the offensive line. But I that shocked me that they didn't get Barkley more involved in the run game.
Yeah, and again, like that's what they've done over the years. And I do wonder, Marty, we see quite often, as my dog wants to chime in on the Eagles offense as well, that he's going to just keep going, I guess, and going here until someone who's also in the house stops him. But nonetheless, you heard all week from A.J. Brown that he wanted the ball, right? He wants the ball. And there's all this commotion surrounding that. How difficult is it? I've been in this spot before. I played with a wide receiver who wanted the ball every single play.
You did.
To like that blend between, okay, our identity is really running the football, play action, pass. Like, let's not lose that identity, but also give the ball to our wide receivers. It feels like the Eagles lost their identity yesterday. They're so focused on making sure that A.J. Brown was happy when their identity has always been, we're going to win at the line of scrimmage. The Broncos have a good defense, don't get me wrong, but 6 carries for Barkley in the game, you were up 17-3 until midway the fourth quarter. Feels like really bad offensive game plan. I understand the need to want to make your superstar wide receiver happy, but you did it at the expense of what was best for your offense in this game. Do you think there's any thought of moving A.J. Brown at some point before the trade deadline? I don't know. His salary is a lot. I don't know if teams are going to take that on. Like, you can't lose your identity of your offense to make a wide receiver happy.
I don't believe in letting good players out the door, Geoff. They're good. They're just too hard to find. Now, what we did with, and we're talking about the same receiver, but I think you have to get good receivers the ball early. right? So they feel like they have a chance the rest of the game to get the ball. So I think you get it to them early, but it does not mean that you can't stick to your philosophy and be balanced and run the football. Because what's it going to take? Saquon Barkley to come out and say he's not getting enough carries? I mean, you can't do it that way. But there is a way, I think, to appease both sides. And I do think that good wide receivers want the ball early in the game to feel like they're going to get it and have a chance. But you cannot get away from the run game like the Eagles did yesterday, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you on not letting guys leave, you just there's something off about Philly. Look, it's really hard to win back-to-back years. I don't know what that feels like, but it's certainly I would imagine we've seen NFL history. It's so how hard it is to do that, especially the Eagles have been so close for so many years with Hurts. They finally got it done. They played in championship games. They played a lot of football. That wear and tear feels like it might be getting to them. Before we get to our Monday Night Football preview here, Marty, quickly, the Colts keep playing well. I keep trying to not imagine a world where they're playing this well, and they just keep doing it. Now, the Raiders absolutely stink. But Daniel Jones was very efficient yesterday, 20 to 29, 212. They were only rushed for 96 yards. I mean, it wasn't like a great offensive performance, but they just dominated the Raiders. They were 8 of 10 on third down. They just did what they had to do in this game. It was an easy 40-6 win. They scored 40 points between the second and third quarter. The Colts are real, right? Or are we going to get duped into buy-in before they bottom out, Marty?
I think the Colts are real, and I think the AFC South is a very intriguing division right now because the Texans have kind of gotten on track, right, a little bit the last couple weeks as far as their offense, the second half the week before, and then yesterday. The Jaguars have a big game tonight. We're going to see. I like the Jaguars. You know that. I've liked them this year. And the Colts are for real, Geoff. And look at them. I mean, as far as Daniel Jones came up and surprised us all a little bit as far as how well he has played. But when you have Daniel Jones and you have Jonathan Taylor and you have a good offensive line and you have enough receivers, weapons at receivers, I don't really see a weak spot in this offense.
I think you're right about that. The weak spot would be if Jones sort of turns back into a pumpkin, which so far he has not done. Let's preview Monday Night Football next on the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings Network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
We're back on the GM Shuffle. Geoff Schwartz, Marty, Hurney. All right, Marty. Monday Night Football, Kansas City at Jacksonville. Kansas City, 3.5-point favorite. Total is kind of hovering around, 45, depending on where you get it, maybe 45.5. But it is a game that's, it's expected to have a little bit of points here. DraftKings right now has that at 45.5. To me, quite simply, this feels like if the Chiefs' offense is really back, they played Baltimore, they played well, everyone's played against Baltimore, then the Chiefs, I think, are a whole team again. And this is a spot where Monday Night Football, they played well for the most part under Mahomes in primetime situations. They should handle business. However, the offense isn't completely whole. That's a problem. The thing that is impressed me the most about Jacksonville is that their defensive line, defensive personnel, Marty, have really come alive this season. They've always had that talent there, but they're playing much better. The offensive line, despite not having that talent, is also playing better, right? So you love to see that the emphasis on being good in the trenches is important. It will matter tonight because the Chiefs' offensive defensive line is also really good, right? So I'm looking forward to this matchup tonight. It should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I hate saying this because you can say it about every game, I guess, but this game's definitely about turnovers to me, Geoff. I mean, Jacksonville leads the league in turnovers, and the Kansas City Chiefs don't turn the ball over. I like Jacksonville, and I like Jacksonville in this spot getting the 3.5 points. It will be very interesting because you're right. The Chiefs have the last couple weeks. The Chiefs are starting to come back to what they were. I just like what Liam Cohen has done with this Jacksonville team. And Anthony Campanelli, their defense coordinator, I think might be a young star. He's 43 years old. He's got that defense playing extremely well, Geoff. And this is Jacksonville's biggest game of the year, right? They're at home. It's Monday night. Everybody's looking at them and saying, okay, are they for real or not? They know that. They know this is their chance to come out, play in front of everybody else in the league that's watching tonight. I just think they come out and play extremely well, and I'm not sure they win, but I think they cover.
Yeah. Yeah, look, the Chiefs over the years, as much as I talk about how well they play in these primetime spots, they are prone to have some lapses in games and have a 10-point lead and ends up being a 3-point win, and Jacksonville covers in those moments. Trevor Lawrence, to me, has still sort of been a little inconsistent, Marty, to what I think we think he can be. Can the Chiefs defense that we know has stopped doing really well this year and sort of force teams to pass? Can Jacksonville win this game with Trevor Lawrence having to be the reason why?
I would say no right now, but that's what we're trying to find out, right? I mean, he certainly has the ability to do that, and he needs to step up in a spot like this, Geoff, and do that to get the respect that we're waiting to give him, right? He needs to come out against a team like Kansas City on a Monday night stage and win the game for him. And he certainly has the ability to do that.
He does, only completing 58% of passes, Marty, which is bad. I mean, that was bad 15 years ago. That's bad for 2025 when we build in so many ways offensively to get easy completions. I'm curious tonight, just personally, about Travis Hunter's usage. Marty, they are wasting his talents. You have to pick a side, man. You're going to have two mediocre players at wide receiver and cornerback, or one great one at one of the two positions. It's that simple. He's talented enough to be really good at either a wide receiver or quarterback or cornerback, but you went in this and you trade up to draft him, and then you went this whole thing. We drafted two different players, and you drafted one player. Pick a spot for him. And one thing I'm curious about tonight, Marty, is when he is in the game defensively, do the Chiefs target him? Do they find ways to make it very difficult for him?
Yeah, I believe they probably do. You said that, and we have seen that. I will say this as far as him as a receiver, okay? You have to give young receivers time. I really think it's the hardest spot to come in and produce right away. Look at Marvin Harrison, and he really started stepping up. You get the feeling that Marvin Harrison is starting to become more and more of a critical part of that Cardinals offense, but it's taken a while. It's taken a year. Travis Hunter is going to be fine. It just takes some time as a young wide receiver.
Right, but they're not giving him all those reps though. Like that's my concern, right? Like he had a great catch against the 49ers the other day. But he needs to get again all the reps at one position. Like to be good at that position, he needs more than the reps he's getting. It was funny yesterday. There was a point where social media was sort of mocking the Bengals because Jamar Chase had 4 receptions and 3 tackles, all on Jake Browning interceptions. They were calling him Travis Hunter because he is doing both the tackles and interceptions as the Browns, the Bengals should say, you look at the Panthers drafted Ted McMillan to be a wide receiver only. He's been better than Travis Hunter because he's getting the reps, Marty. Like he's getting the reps at wide receiver, and Travis Hunter is not getting those. And look, I think Travis Hunter is exceptional talent. I hope he can find a position that works for him, and they just choose one. So we'll see what happens tonight. Looking forward to it. And we'll see tonight, 8:15, Chiefs and Jaguars. If you like what you're hearing on the GM Shuffle, there's even more at VSiN Pro. Betting splits, power rates, and sharp analysis, all for just $9.99 your first month. Go to vsin.com/subscribe and check out all the subscription options. Marty, it's week 5. After week 5, almost done in week 5. And I know I probably say this every year. I probably do. I don't go back and look at all my takes every year. But have we seen a group of worse teams in the NFL that are as bad as the worst teams in the NFL are right now? I mean, the play from the bad teams this week, Marty, was really gross. The Raiders lost 40-6. The Giants and Saints played a game that wasn't greatly played. The Giants and Saints are not very good. That game was 26-14. You look at the Ravens right now are dead, 44-10. I get the injuries are there, I get it, but they're 1-4. The Cardinals Titans game, I mean, the Titans should be 0-5. Like, let's be honest, that they should be 0-5. The Bengals are, I know like the final score was closer than the actual gameplay. That was a 13-point win for the Lions there with a safety late in that game. But the Bengals with Jake Browning have just no chance whatsoever. I mean, Jamar Chase had a touchdown that game that had the lowest expected touchdown percentage for any throw this season. Like he should not have scored a touchdown that play, put it like that. And so Marty, the bad teams, Marty, are really truly awful.
And what do they all have in common? They can score points. And you're talking about an NFL that this season, 11 different teams have scored 40 points, Geoff. 3 have scored it twice. And all those teams you talked about, to a team, struggle to score points, whether it's they have no quarterback, they have young quarterbacks. The Bengals, I said this morning, I mean, they were built around Joe Burrow. Okay. Yeah. They gave him weapons at wide receiver, but their defense, their offensive line is not good enough to win in this league. And I think if you don't have a quarterback, if you can't score points, you have a very hard time of winning consistently in this league, because that's what the game is all about these days.
It is what it's about. And look, we know why some of the teams are bad, as you mentioned. They don't have the ability to score. But I also think teams have just sort of chosen the wrong path to get to where they are. Like the Raiders, for example, Geno Smith was declining. Everyone could see that. He wasn't the same player. And Pete Carroll went out and brought in Geno Smith. They have no offensive line, and yet they drafted a running back. How can you use those players without having an offensive line? And I think some teams have just chosen the wrong path to build. It sets them back pretty far, Marty. And the Raiders are an example of that. I mean, they're just, their roster has a ton of holes, and they use a running back 6th overall to help fill that roster.
I'm laughing because from somebody who got criticized most of his career for taking running backs in the first round, I do, Geoff, I think running backs help set a tone. I'm old school on that. But
you drafted Jeff Otel in the same draft, though. Like you can draft Jonathan Stewart and Jeff Otel, but like the problem with the Panthers wasn't that our offensive line was bad. We had multiple Pro Bowlers. My thing with running backs has always been this, Marty, is that if you have the infrastructure to add a running back, like Christian McCaffrey to the Niners or Saquon Barkley to Philly or any of the Lions guys, it makes a ton of sense. You need that guy to be good on offense. But if you don't have the offensive line, it doesn't make any sense to have a running back. Like it doesn't, you're wasting Jetty's first year in a position that is very much a short-term position. Look at Derrick Henry this year. His numbers going down. Now he's a unicorn anyways. Saquon Barkley, his numbers go down. McCaffrey's always hurt. Like it's a position where to me, you have to build everything around the position, and then you add a running back, you supercharge that. Like imagine the Chiefs had Alvin Kamara right now, right? Like you supercharge that offense. Everything else is in place. They just need the running back. And so, your Panthers teams are bad examples because they had everything in place to add the running back. The Raiders don't have that infrastructure in place to add the running back to make it worth a draft pick.
I do agree with that. My biggest concern if I was at the Raiders would be Pete Carroll has an attachment to Geno Smith, right? And Pete Carroll is one of the best NFL head coaches that I can remember. I mean, he's in an elite group.
That's very good.
But Geno Smith's not good enough to win for you, Geoff. I don't think. I mean, he's certainly not a win because guys, and he's probably a bottom half of the second tier win with guy. So you have to be able to see those things. You're right. I totally agree that drafting a running back when you don't have an offensive line, you don't have the people in front of them, 6 is a really high choice. Now, he's a good player, but they have to figure out how they're going to win games. And I don't think you do that until you get the quarterback position figured out.
If you are the general manager of the Arizona Cardinals and your running back drops the ball before scoring a touchdown to put you up 28-6, I don't know if you cuss, Marty. I don't know. No idea. I don't know how you react at bad times. I was always down on the field when you were probably MFing us from the owner's box. But
never, Jim.
What are you saying to Jonathan Gannon after the game or to the player after a game like that?
Did we not show the tape of the Colts game the week before? That was 2 weeks in a row. You can't do that. you cannot put the ball out. You can't make that mistake. So I think that, a lot of it would be, listen, we got to tell our guys not to do this. I mean, every offensive coordinator in the league should be bringing out the tapes of those two plays and saying, you cannot do that.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Welcome back to the GM Shuffle. Geoff, Schwartz, Marty, Hurney. Let's get to our Week 5 superlatives. We sort of talk about the rest of the league, the games, to try to make a way to make sense of what we saw on NFL Sunday. This will include, by the way, some Thursday, a little bit of Thursday discussion. We did not get to that, Marty, obviously, after the 49ers. This big underdog, super injured team went into Los Angeles to beat the Rams pretty handily. Now, again, Connor Williams doesn't fumble the ball. Maybe the game's a little bit different. Rams win by 7, who knows? But for most of that game, the Niners were in control. Let's get to our MVP/best coach of the weekend, Marty. What do you got?
Best coach, I got to go all the way back to last Thursday and go to Kyle Shanahan. He is just doing a remarkable job with a 49ers team that has so many injuries, Geoff, in critical spots. And to come off a short week and beat the Rams like they did. And I thought for sure the Rams were going to make the 4th and 1 and win the game. 49ers stopped them. I think that Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh have done a tremendous job in some really challenging circumstances with the injuries. He would have to be my coach of the weekend.
So the Niners won with injuries right now. They're not as injured in some critical positions, right? Like they still have their middle linebacker, right? Who's very important. They still have their running back, who's very important. What's so different about their situation versus the Ravens? Are the Ravens just, it's too many guys, Marty, that are beat up? Like the Niners are competitive with all their injuries, and the Ravens are uncompetitive with all their injuries.
Yeah, and that's a really good question, Geoff, because I think you have to go, it's real easy when you have injuries to just dismiss everything and say, oh, we're hurt, we didn't have a chance. But I think you have to go back and say, was everything okay before the injuries occurred? Baltimore came out in their first 2 games, scored 40 points each game, right? One against the Bills in a losing effort and one against Cleveland. So you can argue that something happened offensively. Maybe Lamar Jackson wasn't 100% after those games. Whatever the reason, something happened there. But I do think that I don't know whether the Ravens' injuries have been that much more than the 49ers. They've been beat up on both sides of the ball, Geoff. So, but I do think that Kyle Shanahan has adapted better and has been able to keep that winning formula despite the injuries.
Yeah, and the offense sort of makes that happen a little bit there as well. I mean, just an offense that is so quarterback friendly. Not the same thing in Baltimore. I don't think Baltimore has quit, right? I mean, I think sometimes you look at that, unfortunately, Marty, and think to yourself, maybe it's a situation where they quit. I don't see that with Baltimore, but I do see a team that I've only had this in college, where a team is so beat up that no matter what you do, it doesn't matter, and then eventually, we're all human. Like eventually that does sort of take its toll on you. And again, you don't play less hard, but that will to do the little extra things that help you win and lose games, Marty, you just don't do them as crisply, right? And I'm not saying you do it willfully, don't try, but there's just things that happen throughout the contest and throughout the game that change a little bit when you just have no chance to play well. My MVP of the weekend to me is Mike Vrabel. The Patriots, Marty, are a team that is sloppy. They're sloppy right now. They're playing not a clean brand of football, but they're still winning. Imagine when they clean some of that stuff up, when they stop having the bad penalties and stop having some of the mistakes they've made. Christian Gonzalez being back obviously helped them a lot last night. That's a big win, man. Buffalo doesn't lose at home very often, especially not as a touchdown plus favorite. and you took their best shot, right? You're up 10 and Buffalo comes all the way back and makes it a close game. And Drake May makes a couple plays. You get down there, you could game-winning field goal, and you win that game. So to me, best coach, best MVP for the weekend goes to Vrabel for getting that team ready. Best game, no surprise each weekend. We could probably pencil this team in. Any game the Bucs play is the best game of the weekend. 38-35 was the final score in Seattle. Tampa Bay wins. Only 3 points were scored in the first quarter. In the second half, we saw nearly 35 points combined. That my math is very wrong on that. Nearly 43 points, I think, scored in the second half of this game. Incredible back and forth. Quickly, Baker Mayfield, 29 of 33 for 379, 2 touchdowns. Darnold, 28 of 34 for 341 and 4 touchdowns. He did throw 1 interception. Marty, that was an incredible game.
It was an incredible game. And you just mentioned 2 guys there, Geoff, that, we always talk about drafting the right quarterback, finding the right quarterback. Well, here are 2 guys that were drafted in the first round. Baker was number 1 overall. Didn't make it with their original teams, initial teams, right? And they've had to jump around more than 2 teams. And both of these guys now, Baker Mayfield just makes plays every week. The Bucs, we were talking about at the break, the Bucs have been behind in all 4 of their victories with less than a minute left in the game. And he has come up and made plays to win games. Sam Darnold is playing exceptionally well with the Seahawks. And I think Clint Kubiak is doing a great job with that offense, very balanced with the running backs and Darnold playing well. I just really enjoyed watching this game because those 2 guys both played extremely well. Baker's probably my MVP, although I got to throw the name Jared Goff in there, Geoff, because I just do not give him or the Lions enough credit, and I'm really starting to. Jared Goff just shows up every week. He's smart. He makes good decisions. He's got the ability to make all the throws, and he's playing extremely well this year. But Baker was just incredible yesterday.
The Lions are 4-1. They lost the Packers and beat the Bears by 30. Ravens, Browns, and Bengals. I think people are waiting to see the next 5 games. So Kansas City, Tampa Bay, Minnesota. I assume JJ's back by then. Commanders, Eagles. I feel like we'll know a lot more about the Lions after that stretch, Marty, where they play essentially 5 playoff teams, right? And they haven't done that so far, but you should play well against bad teams if you're a good team. It's very simple. Best quarterback, we kind of talked about both these already, Baker and Drake May. So we'll move on to the best offense of the day. And look, I get, Marty, that the Baltimore Ravens are everyone's get-right game. But again, the Texans should have had a get-right game against the Titans last week and didn't do that, right? That was 6-0 in the fourth quarter. They did yesterday, though. 44-10, 44 points for Houston. Stroud only had 4 incompletions. They ran the ball well. A legitimate good performance for Houston yesterday. So over 50% on 3rd down, which I look as an important metric for me when I figure out if a team has done well or not. Very few penalties, no turnovers. Just a very clean game. So they have the best offense for me.
Yeah, I agree, Geoff. In the week before, too, that fourth quarter, they started to get momentum, right? And it carried over in the last week. And you love to see that. I thought they were very good. Listen, Indianapolis, when you score 40 points, I know it was against the Raiders, but they did what they had to do. They scored 40 points twice this year. I think, again, I don't see a weak spot in that offense. So I like their game as well.
The best defense for me, and look, there's a couple options. Obviously, the Colts allowing 6 points certainly gets up there. But again, we haven't talked about much, and we'll hit a couple more times throughout the show. I did the Commanders basically after the first quarter. So they allowed a touchdown and a field goal. And then after the first quarter, Marty, they forced a fumble. They forced a punt, another punt. Then the Chargers stuck on 4th down, then an interception, and obviously the game was over. So to me, the Commanders really, once that first quarter kind of got through, especially offensive and defensively, it looked pretty good.
Yeah, and again, they did what they had to do, right? Chargers offensive line is decimated with injuries. You had to keep getting pressure on Justin Herbert. That was a concern for Jim Harbaugh coming in. I think the Commanders ended with 4 sacks. They got hits. They pressured Justin Herbert, and they did their job. So I agree with that as well.
All right. Your best defense is who, Marty?
I actually went back to Thursday. I like the 49ers just because banged up, you come in, you're facing a very good Rams offense. You make that stop on 4th and 1 at the end of the game. They just stepped up and played extremely well with all the injuries they've had.
They did that fumble on Williams there. I know people thought, that it's true that he got hit in the helmet. He did get hit in the helmet, but the ball got punched out. But both are true, and that's what playing the trenches is. You're getting hit in the helmet every now and then. I want to come back to teams in trouble, Marty, in a few minutes here. A significant injury. We're seeing injuries now, start to pop up even more. We mentioned, Dickerson going out for the Eagles. They managed to be okay there. But what were a couple injuries you saw yesterday that concern you?
Well, the Landon Dickerson injury was the biggest one for the Eagles because Howie Roseman builds this team starts to build this team from the offense and defensive lines, and he's just the guy that has a really good effect on the guys, other guys, offensive linemen on that team. So to me, he was the biggest injury, Geoff.
Yeah, the other ones, Milano hasn't played, so that's an injury that
Right.
Is a problem for them. The other one, dude, the Chargers offensive line, man, it just Pipkins went out, Mekhi Becton went out. I don't know if either of them came back in.
No.
I mean, they ended the game without Herbert on the field. I know they weren't going to win, but that's a rarity. Quarterbacks don't often get benched, and that's something that. And also, too, we had a game in Vegas where Vegas and Colts were both kickers. A punter, both punters got hurt, Marty, in that game. Maybe kicker and a punter ended up happening. That was a rarity.
Kicker and a punter. Yeah, that was a little wild. The other injury, Geoff, that didn't happen yesterday, but I thought was very significant last night was the Ed Oliver injury for the Bills. They really need his push up the middle, and I think that he could have put more pressure on Drake May and made that a different game. So I think the Bills need him back.
Yeah, the Bills, look, when Milano's not there, the defense is different. You add in Ed Oliver, the defense is different. And look, the NFL doesn't have many teams that have an Ed Oliver waiting in the wings to come in and at least give him a little bit of spell, right? That's why they're starters and backups, and clearly they've missed him over the years. We're going to finish up with superlatives here, talk about some of the teams in trouble, then hit a little bit more Monday Night Football. Next, James presented by DraftKings Network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Back on the GM Shuffle as we wrap up our Monday episode. As usual, we will have one on Thursday as well, previewing Thursday Night Football and all the games next weekend. And so please subscribe to the podcast. Maybe hit a pause and do it right now to make sure you get our newest episode when it comes out. If you're watching on YouTube, we appreciate a subscribe. That would help us a lot as we continue to make this podcast each and every week, one Monday and one Thursday. Marty, let's get to the last of the superlatives here before we get to the best bets for this upcoming week. The bad teams, right? The teams in trouble, right? The Ravens we talked about. The Chargers are in trouble. Their offensive line really concerns me, and we saw yesterday the continued injuries up front. It's a problem. Herbert gets hit so much, but some of these bad teams, Marty, I know we didn't have high hopes for them, but the Jets are 0-5 and haven't forced one turnover yet, and Aaron Glenn's a defensive coach, and I put out there that I'm not sure he makes it to next season. People were like, "Oh, how dare you?" Dan Campbell went 0-13 or whatever it was to start his first year and finished with 3 wins, and I don't see the parallels between Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn at all. And the Jets are a really tough watch. They weren't close against Miami. They needed a screaming comeback to get close against Buffalo. Against the Bucs. They lost it by 20 to Buffalo. The game, I think, was 30-0 at one point. Um, the Jets, Marty, they just look like a lost franchise right now.
Well, Geoff, I think one of the things that you're looking at when you say that is they are beating themselves probably more with penalties than turnovers. Listen, if you're turning the ball over, maybe you look and say, okay, we're just not good enough. But when you're beating yourself with penalties, that's something that can be corrected. And right now they're just playing very undisciplined football. Now they don't have the quarterback Justin Fields, and I like Justin coming out, but he just hasn't played well enough to make him a really top tier win with guy. So they obviously have a lot of personnel issues, but beating yourself with penalties is something that I think goes directly to the head coach.
It doesn't like I know people will take this as like I'm maybe too hard on Aaron Glenn, Marty, but we're seeing with other new coaches this year a little bit of improvement every week, right? Mike Vrabel, right? Like getting a little bit better. The Saints just aren't good, but they're not making a ton of terrible mistakes, right? Like they're not doing that. You look at what the Chicago Bears are doing right now. They have Caleb Williams, certainly fair to mention that. Pete Carroll right now, that team's in a world of hurt, but Pete Carroll's won a Super Bowl for, so we sort of let him have that in his back pocket to where he can build. The Jets are not getting any better, and that's the part to me that it's concerning about where they are right now. Marty, people were high on the Cardinals. I think heading into the season, it was year 3, Jonathan Gannon. You're getting Kyler Murray. You're getting Marvis Harrison back for year 2. The offensive line's not terrible there. James Conner had a good year last year. Defensively, they really do some fun things. They've lost, I believe it's now 3 games this season on the final play of the game, which is very unique for the NFL. But they're in trouble, Marty. They are not the team that people want them to be.
They lost on the last play of the game because they don't take advantage of their opportunities to extend their lead earlier in the game. So they put themselves in that position. And I think that, again, it goes back to I just don't see the formula that they have to win. I thought yesterday, because it's been driving me crazy, and I'm thinking maybe they're like the Bengals, where they just have to have Kyler Murray put them on their back and win games, and he just cannot do that or has not done that consistently, Geoff. So, I think they're in a world of hurt as well. Obviously, the Raiders, that Dolphins Panthers game was kind of hard to watch as well. But the Dolphins got out. You thought they're gonna win the game and add on to the momentum of the previous week, and it just didn't happen. And it was a really good win for the Panthers to come back and win that game at home. But I think both those teams have a lot of concerns.
What do you do if you're the Bengals? Jake Brown's just not the guy, Marty. And your division right now is sort of still winnable, which is kind of wild to say. What are you trading for a quarterback? Are you just saying we hope Browning figures it out? Like, what's the plan for the quarterback spot? Or you just ride with Browning because that's what your situation you're in? Like, what are you doing if you're the general manager there?
I would ride with Browning. I mean, I guess my question would be, okay, who would you bring in? Everybody will throw out Kirk Cousins, but with that offensive line, Geoff, with that defense, who is going to be able to step in and make a difference? I don't think. Listen, their record, sure, the division's there, but I just think that I wouldn't be really concerned about winning the division. I would just be concerned about trying to get better in the other areas. This team was built for Jeff Burrow. They gave him weapons at receiver, but they didn't really do much with the offensive line. Needs to be improved. The defense needs to be improved. So I would ride it out with Jake Browning, and then just, I would have a lot of discussions with coaches, with the personnel people. What do we have to do to make our offensive line and our defense better?
Their failure to be able to build an offensive line around Joe Burrow is an all-time blunder, Marty. And they just haven't drafted and developed players. Now they're starting, I believe, 2 guards that are rookies and a right tackle in the second year, but they haven't gotten there yet where they feel comfortable, obviously, with the offensive line being good enough to make that happen. The name I thought was maybe like a Jameis Winston trade for him. Like, he'll throw the ball at least. It might not go to the team with the same color jersey he's wearing, but he'll try. He'll get the ball down the field a little bit. Now, the offensive line being concerned, he's not very mobile, as we know, and that to me is concerning. One last team in trouble, and I have their under for the wins this year is the New York Giants. I thought Dart wouldn't play as well. There were moments where he was good in this game, but clearly not good enough. Turnovers were not all his fault, really hurt the Giants. But offensively, the Giants right now, without Malik Neighbors, they're just not going to be as good. The Saints are a bad example because Saints stink. But the Saints won that game and scoring 10 points in the second half. The Giants had no points second half. So Giants now 1-4, Marty, and they got the Eagles this weekend, and then they got the Broncos and the Eagles and the Niners and the Bears. I mean, you're looking at the first team they could realistically, like on paper, beat the Raiders in Week 16. I don't know. They're not going to win it all, Marty.
No, they're not. And again, the difference between the week before and yesterday was they turned the ball over, right? And really arguably beat themselves. But this is a team that is going to play and base all the positives off the hope for the future that Jackson Dart at quarterback gives them. So I think what you want to do is you just want to put him in situations where he can make enough plays and win enough games to keep the confidence of the locker room. I think that's one thing we don't talk enough about, Geoff, and you'd be good to comment on this, is when a young quarterback comes in, okay, and he loses a lot of games at the start. My mind goes back to Jimmy Clausen we had at the Panthers. If you lose enough games with a quarterback, okay, and there's obviously other reasons more than wins and losses, but if you're in that locker room, Geoff, and you have a guy come in and you just haven't won, you've lost 7, 8, 9, 10 games with a guy, does your confidence in him for the future decrease?
Well, it depends on why you're losing, right? Like the Jimmy Clausen thing, he just wasn't good, and like he didn't really exude a lot of confidence in the huddle. I'm sorry.
Let me take that out there for a second.
I'm sorry. I mean, you brought it up, Marty.
You're right.
You're right.
I brought it up. You're right.
You brought it up. I've been waiting. We've been doing this for like 7 weeks now. I've been waiting to do this. What it is. He just wasn't good. Now, there are other circumstances that were around that draft pick that year, as we understand. One day we'll have a chance to reminisce about those as well. He just wasn't good. And you can be not good, but give confidence and, be a guy that we can see the flashes. Like, there were flashes last year with Drake May, right? There were flashes with Caleb Williams last season. Right. There weren't any with Jimmy Clausen. And that, I think, is where you're at. Like so as a player, when you see those positives, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? Where, again, I don't want to belabor the point, but there was no light at the end of the tunnel with Clausen. So, like, that's why I looked at it. And I didn't have a chance with a ton of young quarterbacks. Really, that year was the only one where it was that case. I played with Eli, Alex Smith, right? Matt Stafford, Jake Delhomme, like a lot of tenured quarterbacks. So that year was certainly a little bit different. All right, Marty, time to get to our NFL best bets for the week, presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. What are your two? You got two right now that you like for this week.
I do. And I guess I'm going against all logic, but I really like the Cleveland Browns getting 4.5 from Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh Sunday. And listen, Pittsburgh's coming off a bye. Cleveland's coming back from London. Everything points to the Steelers as far as being healthier and rested. Mike Tomlin is 14-3, I think, coming off buys. They've won their last 7 in a row coming off buys. But I like the Cleveland Browns. I like Kevin Stefanski's ability to put Dylan Gabriel in an offense that doesn't really put him in danger of turning the ball over a lot. And Quishon Judkins, I love this kid from Ole Miss. I think as a running back, I think he has great vision, great short lateral change of direction. That's the Steelers have given up about 150 yards a game rushing. I like Cleveland's ability to run the ball, and I think they keep it close.
The Judkins has done a really good job. Quickly, my best bet, and this is something I don't normally do, but the way this has gone this year, the bad teams are bad, the good teams are good. And Indianapolis is laying 5.5 at home against Arizona. Arizona's just not good. And the way the Colts have played against these bad teams, they've eaten them up, man. They just have. They've eaten them up. And I would often take a home dog laying 5.5 against a team that just lost the way Arizona lost. But how many times do the Colts have to keep dominating bad teams, Marty, before I decide I'm all in? And I think I'm sort of, maybe I'm a week too late on this, but this is where we are right now. As a reminder, GM Shuffle drops every Monday. That's today. Every Thursday. That'll be Thursday. It's on YouTube, your favorite podcast platform of choice. Please subscribe, leave us comments, leave us reviews, send us tweets. Marty's not on Twitter. I'll read it for him, guys, if you need to. Enjoy the game tonight. We'll be back on Thursday. Take care, everybody.